leading the revolution of talk radio. Lynn Cullen.
Wow. Spurred by Matt and my natural curiosity, I've been looking at a bunch of expert opinion on what's going on in Georgia, and it's a mess. Because it ain't just these two breakaway regions of. It's not just these two breakaway regions. What you got is the same kind of disastrous situation that you have in Kosovo and Serbia. What you have is a huge region of Europe, which is cobbled, a bunch of little ethnic groups cobbled together into nations that never, you have essentially with the same nonsense you've got in Iraq. You've got the only way these places ever remain peaceful in themselves, at peace with themselves, is under a boot. The only way you keep peace in these regions. So when you have the splitting up of the Soviet, this is still the effect of tear down this wall. When those walls started falling, you unleashed so much of these ethnic, to call them rivalries doesn't quite bring it up to the level, hatreds is where they are, and fears that have always been there but have been contained by authoritarian regimes. Saddam Hussein contained the Sunnis, Shia, and the Kurds in Iraq. Remember Tito? He contained the Serbs and the Croats and all the other folks in what was Yugoslavia. You have John McCain talking about Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia doesn't even exist anymore. The Czech Republic exists. All of these countries, and Georgia, which was the birthplace of Stalin, as you know. Stalin was a Georgian. Georgia has always had these smaller ethnic groups that have never been particularly comfortable there. But under the Soviets, everybody had to sort of play nice, right? As soon as the Soviet Union breaks up, I mean, if this is just the start. I mean, you look at the other former republics, you think you don't have the same kinds of situations there? I don't know. You got a real problem.
I'm by no means saying that Russia's a good guy. I'm saying that if you know who Russia is, why do you poke them?
No, I agree. Yeah, poking a bear, especially a bear that is coming out of hibernation, is hungry, is humiliated, is feeling its oats, is a real bad idea.
And the Georgian president
the Saakashvili obviously misplaced
thought NATO and the West was going to rush to his aid,
that's where he was,
because he has this pipeline
totally
that helps
naive.
Europe with their oil.
Totally naive.
And what's going to happen, I think, is Russia's going to get what they want out of this thing, which is going to be a regime change in Georgia.
Right. Russia's going to win this. I mean, Russia's going to win this no matter what, because no one will take them on. The Georgians can't. They don't have anywhere. I mean, it's a joke. This is a fight between an angry bear and a mouse. It ain't going to happen. And the West is not going to come to their aid because they're just, not in any position to do it. But, if you read, I was just reading in the Times has a research blog in which experts from all over the place have written about how they see this thing. And it's fascinating. But, just when you thought, yeah, we're getting a handle on the world, you find out that there's these people called Ossetians. Did you ever hear of them before? And there aren't even that many of them. And man, they're mad. And they're aggrieved. They're aggrieved and they're humiliated. And then it turns out you've got these other people called the Abkhazians. And you know what? They're aggrieved and they're humiliated. You got the Chechens, you got the Kazakhs, you got these little groups we'll later learn about them. We know about the Kurds now. Good Lord. It reminds me of a story my mother always told about her grandmother, who was an immigrant to this country. And whenever her grandmother was asked, where did you come from? She would say, well, I don't know what to tell you. We'd look out the window in the morning and we'd see whose flag was flying. And she was from this part of the world. One day she was in Germany, the next day she's in Poland. One day she's in Lithuania, the next day she's who knows what. You got the Ukrainians. This is going to be, Ukraine is a potential huge powder keg. What the heck are we going to do? I'm telling you, Vladimir Putin, remember when George Bush looked in his eyes and could see his soul and found him to be a good guy? Oh, Lord. This Russia is scarier to me than the communist Russia, because the commies could never get their economic act together, well, because they were commies. What you got now are Russians really getting the economic act together because they're capitalists now. But they still love authoritarian government. The people do. It's all they've ever known. They went from a czar to the communists. And now they got Putin. And so he'll give them the warm embrace of a big daddy, and he'll let them get rich. I don't know. I think they're more dangerous now. Anyway, one of the op-ed pieces says, who we're going to have to play nice with, who we're going to want to have as our ally heading into this new world. Because the new world, you're seeing different alignments going on. There was an interesting piece in the Wall Street Journal a few days ago called The New World Order. And you're seeing that. And part of the New World Order is the rise of regional powers that are oil rich and who generally are anti-American. So in South America, you've got Chavez's Venezuela. In the Middle East, you got Iran. And in Europe, you have Russia. And the suggestion of at least this one person, and who knows what they're talking about, is that it would be wise, first of all, for the United States to stop being dependent on oil. We've got to stop that. This is this is what T. Boone Pickens is running around screaming. And he's right. This is a national security issue, folks. So I don't care. Don't even complain. It's a national security issue. We cannot allow ourselves to be beholden and or addicted to a substance which we can only get from our enemies. You can't do that. It doesn't make any sense. Stupid. But the suggestion is that we're going to need to keep some kind of a relationship with Russia. Europe is definitely not going to be able to break away from Russia. Do you know the vast majority of Europe's gas comes from Russia? So it depends on who your dealer is. So antagonizing Russia is not a good idea in the long term. And, of course, you see that's what George McCain, well, there was the Freudian slip. That's what John McCain is doing right now. He's going to poke the bear a little bit more. Great idea. And I think what we're going to want to do is try to stay on the good side of China, because the emerging global powers, would make it a very good idea to have China feeling that they like us more than they like the Russians. And you will notice that, when the opening ceremonies occurred, that you had both Vladimir Putin and George W. Bush there playing nice with the Chinese, because both those countries, us and them, want to try to keep the Chinese on their side or our side. Absolutely. I don't know. I don't pretend to know, but I'm going to try to keep learning more and find out, because not that I can do much about it, but I'm telling you this. Beware those Russians. Scaring me. I don't get scared easy. I don't, but the Russians have always scared me. And Vladimir Putin in particular. There's something about him. You look at him, and if you don't start feeling your blood running cold, then I don't think you got a real good, instinctive self-preservation thing going. I just don't.
I think if you look in his eyes, you will see his soul.
Yeah, you know what you see in his eyes? You know what you see in his eyes? Steel. That's what you see in his eyes. You don't see a soul. You see steel. All right, what do you guys think? 412-333-1360. We got Georgia on our mind. I'm Lynn Cullen. It's AM News Talk 1360.
I sing for my Georgia. Oh, Georgia.
Oh, Georgia.
Get it whole way through.
Yeah, we do. We have Georgia on our minds.
This old sweet song.
And I told you that when I first saw
Keeps Georgia.
what I saw a headline, or I heard on the news something about Russian tanks going into Georgia. I did a double take. I said, what? I mean, I know I'm afraid of these Russians, but they got tanks in Georgia? And then I of course, calmed down and remembered my geography and Soviet Union geography, and remembered Georgia. Anyway, I don't know. We don't know. I've always said that the only way Americans ever learn anything about geography is war, and I suppose that's always been the case. Ted, Mount Washington, hi.
What's going on?
Don't you say what's going on.
What's up, Lynn? Hey, I got a funny thing to tell you. Hey, when I was a little kid, when they talked about guerrilla warfare,
I know. I had the same thing.
I kept on thinking of that
Gorillas.
the scene of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Well, you
Oh,
know
yeah,
what?
the
Because
tail.
when we first heard it, you were hearing about guerrilla warfare in the jungles of
Right.
Southeast Asia. That's where I first heard it. So I could not for the life of me understand why we were fighting gorillas in the jungle.
And that's why that movie Planet of the Apes, I was done. I said, oh, my God, we're gone.
I know. You know how many little kids must have had that fear from hearing
my
it on the, you'd have the TV news would be on, and you'd hear about the gorillas in the jungle.
Yeah,
and
the gorillas are taking over.
I know. The gorillas won, and the Americans are thinking, oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Real quick, about Georgia. Georgia's up in flames right now. You can trace this all the way back to Mr. George Bush and preemptive war strikes. When this fool went into Iraq.
Well, that's true.
Guess what?
Yeah.
any other country or other superpower could do the same thing.
Well, you're right, and I've been thinking about that too.
Oh, that's
because
a
I'm
direct
thinking,
response.
I mean, the absurdity of seeing Condi Rice or George Bush saying to the Russians, "You cannot go into a sovereign nation like that," and I'm thinking, hello,
I know.
you idiots! You have no standing whatsoever.
You can't
None.
say anything because you're doing the same thing, and that's why
That's why everybody
want them not to do it.
Everybody was screaming that at us.
Right.
And did we listen? Oh, no.
No.
Are the Russians listening? Oh, no.
No one's around the world listening because you lost your political capital.
That's right.
Because when you go around talking about this and talking about, democracy and freedom, meanwhile, you got Abu Ghraib and also you got Gizmo, you look like a hypocrite.
That's right.
It's
You don't look like you are a
impossible.
hypocrite.
Right, and I'll be honest, all these folks that got comfortable with the Russians and Chinese say they're friends and everything. Well, guess what? That bear is the same bear it always was.
That's right.
Bear. And same thing. If anybody think China is not going to take over Taiwan, they're out of their damn mind. Because empires expand.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
They don't like contracting, and when they contract, they feel humiliated. And they wait for their chance to get what's theirs.
Oh,
back.
without doubt. It's a great book called The Second World. Basically, what you talk about, the New World Order. You remember that picture of FDR, Stalin, and also Churchill?
At
sitting
Yalta,
around?
yeah.
Well, guess what? This is a realignment.
Yeah, right. No, I know.
All right. The U.S. does not have the influence like it used to.
Right.
This empire is in decline.
Yes.
And what you have petrostates, basically saying
right.
that majority of the wealth is oil, and at the same time you got poverty. Russia is still a poor country. Majority of its income is coming through oil. And these sovereign funds, which owns us, you got problems. And same thing with China. China's our bankers, so we can't really say anything against them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have poor countries, guess what? Following rich countries.
That's right. And this is
Oh, my goodness.
No, this is the New World Order.
New
and those
World
poor,
Order.
Listen, those poor countries are going to be rich soon enough.
Oh, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why T-Bo Pickens is running around here, and he's right. It's the greatest transfer of wealth in history, and it's not going to change because Americans not going to change. They're still living in the 20th century.
We can't get our head around it.
Oh, well, we're going to get our head around it pretty soon because guess what? When these guys get together and start cutting that oil off, it's going to change our way of living. It's going to change our way of everything.
But here's what we don't want to happen, and here's what always scares me. Are we any different than anyone else?
Nope.
When we start losing our power,
We already did.
are we going to feel humiliated? Yes, we are.
Oh.
And what is our reaction going to be? Is it going to be to become more militaristic?
Look, when you don't have a manufacturer base, you can kiss your military goodbye. Okay, that's one. See, when you look at the whole economic thing, military has its limits. We don't have enough troops. We don't make anything no more. Financially, we're dependent on other countries for our 401k to our Social Security. So these are the things that the average American can't get their head around, and they need to get around quick because, it used to be we can control our own destiny. You can forget it now. We depend on other countries for everything, even to our job.
Well, you know what's funny, Ted? You started out this conversation by saying, "What's going on?" to me.
Oh, yeah?
And you just told everybody.
Well, I mean, look, the average American is I'm sorry to say, it's pretty much stupid. They're like sheep. They'll fall off a cliff. I mean, include myself. I mean, it takes us a while.
I think you're mistaking sheep with lemmings.
It takes us a while, to really
That's right.
get around this concept.
Well, it's hard to wake up to something that you know is a nightmare.
Well, hey, enjoy the country while you can because it's gone.
Okay.
Take it
Goodbye.
easy.
Goodbye. Too much. Too depressing. That's my job. It's my job to be depressing, not yours. Dennis, go ahead.
Hey, Lynn.
Hi.
I had to agree entirely with the previous caller.
Yeah.
He really had some good points there.
Right.
But what I wanted to talk about was two things. If you sort of flying under the radar is this whole NATO thing and how we've been trying to bring all these former Russian satellite countries, Poland, Georgia, into NATO. And one of the little understood things about NATO is that a country has to pledge 2% of its GDP
Well-
toward war production.
Well, you have to also defend a fellow NATO country that is attacked. The last thing we want is to let all these Russian satellites into NATO. If Georgia was in NATO, what would we have to do right now? Would we end up in a war with Russia?
Well, I agree with that. The point is, though, that the broad scope is they're trying to bring back the Russian boogeyman, okay, by subverting the former eastern satellite countries of Russia toward the West. And, of course, Russians feel threatened by this, and they're going to react. And everything that you said about Russia, I mean, if people would just say, and just substitute the word America for Russia, they would see how ridiculous our stance is. Thank you.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. Dave Washington, hi.
Good morning, Lynn.
Hello.
I knew something was wrong with Bush the same time he said, he looked into Putin's eyes and saw his soul. He also used the phrase, and I quote, "my friend Vladimir."
Right.
And I mentioned that to a friend, and he said, "Oh, you're just back in the old Cold War frame of mind." I said, "No. I used to watch Chiller Theater," and those words used to scare me. I think like China. The reason why China is going to eventually dominate the world is because these countries have learned military conquest is not the way to rule the world. It's economic conquest.
Well, I thought that's a lesson they learned from us.
Exactly. And Japan challenged us in the 70s and the 80s until they fell apart. But that's how we won the Cold War.
Right.
Not by militarily beating them, but we drove them into bankruptcy.
That's
we
right.
had the infrastructure and the network to keep us from going totally bankrupt. We're still hanging in it. We haven't pulled ourselves out of it yet, but and so that's what China is going to do. You don't have to spend money on armies and things like that. I think Russia is still very much in that mindset, although they're going after these little republics around them. They're not necessarily invading the United States. I don't think they have any desire whatsoever to go to war with the United States. They're just going to challenge us economically. But China, with 4 times as many people as we have, and they have absolutely no environmental laws, there's nothing to hold them back from just tearing everybody else up. And that's how they're going to win it all. We cannot compete with China economically once they are running on all 8 cylinders.
Yeah.
We're just not going to be able to do it. So, here we go, the decline of the American empire. It's been nice. It also doesn't hurt to have, our own semi-totalitarian administration. This is the way it goes. They say about the Roman Empire fell because of heavy taxation and moral decay and all this. Oh, no. Started in the 4th century when they decided to have a national religion, which emphasized belief in faith rather than critical thinking and rational thought.
Also, it has to do with overreaching. What happens is a country, all empires essentially commit suicide.
Eventually.
Yeah, because,
we got a good 250 years or so, and now I guess we're just going to sit here and watch China do it, so.
That's the way I feel, too. Well, listen, though, it's not like, the British had an empire. They're still there. It's not like, it's not like you're not there, and we're, it's not like we're going to, all of a sudden become a banana republic. But no, we're going to have to learn to share a lot more than we ever have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 412-333-1360. I got to get a break out of the way because I'm always behind. I'm Lynn Cullen. It's AM News Talk 1360. Okay, back we go to the phones, and here is Kevin in Homestead. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hello, Lynn. How are you?
Fine.
I just wanted to, if you caught Jon Stewart last night amongst the Olympics, but they showed the U.S. ambassador to the UN, and he was making his statement condemning the invasion of a sovereign nation, and he put in a little catchphrase that
Who is
made
that?
it okay.
Is that Khalilzad now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
His phrase was, and Jon Stewart really hit this on the head, You shall not invade a sovereign nation in Europe.
Oh, is that it?
That's what makes it okay.
Oh, I see. You can invade a sovereign nation
anywhere else.
Africa, South
Pretty
America.
much.
Okay.
That's how they got around it.
I see.
They seem to be aware of not poking fun at themselves or getting themselves in trouble.
But technically, what continent? Now, wait a minute. What continent is Iraq in?
I guess that's Asia.
Why is that Asia? Is that Asia?
Because Turkey's the
This is what
divide.
I've always asked. I think the whole Middle East, nobody knows where to put it. It's not like it's on any continent. What continent? I've always said this about Israel. What continent is Israel on?
Everything I've seen has, like, the dividing line is right in the middle of Turkey.
You
Like, if
think?
anything to the right of that is Asia.
Is Asia?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be interested to see what a full-fledged geographer would say about the. But obviously the Bush administration then is not putting Iraq in Europe.
Right. They're fine because they didn't violate their rules.
Right. It's just, oh God.
It's semantics.
Oh, help us. Hey, thanks, Kevin.
Sure.
All right, bye. Bye. Yay. Evelyn, Mount Washington, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
Wasn't Putin with the KGB?
Yes, he was.
Is that what you call it?
Very high up in the KGB.
Yeah, somebody said once KGB, always KGB.
That's right.
And you know another thing, see, Bush has a thing about height because I heard, now he's taller than Putin. Putin's short. And that doesn't matter. Like you said, he does have steel eyes. And then I heard that the reason he didn't pick Tom Ridge for vice president was because he was taller. Because Bush likes to be tall, you know. And I'm just thinking, I thought, don't underestimate his size because he might not, Putin might not be tall, but he is. He's, you know, KGB. He's
yeah, KGB, forever and ever. No, absolutely right. Well, remember Napoleon? Well, they have this whole thing called a Napoleonic complex. Napoleon was a short little guy. What was he, about 5'2", 5'3"? And sometimes the sense of a Napoleonic complex is a short man who feels the need to, who feels slighted and looked down upon. Here we go to humiliation again. Oh, my God. It's everywhere. Humiliation. And so whoever knew that the whole world's history can be is a response to feelings of humiliation? I think that's pretty much what it's coming down to. And why do you think Napoleon had to go try to take over the whole world? Because he felt humiliated too, because he was a little guy. Ay. We were saying the other day that the world is controlled by crazy people, obviously. I mean, emotional, crazy people, and that's why you have this crazy world. But I think it's the emotional humiliation, the sense of humiliation, and I'm bigger than you are, and I can, you know what, a kind of contest, and that's what's going on everywhere you look. No matter what the problem is, it can always boil down, it seems, to that sort of that swaggering kind of chest thumping. Oh God, it makes you crazy. Ed, Hill District.
Good morning.
Hi.
I assume you heard the president's comments.
No, I didn't. What did George say? I avoid them.
Well, what he said is, in effect, that he's signing the death warrant of hundreds of millions of Americans because he is sending our Navy and Air Force to Georgia to provide humanitarian aid, which is going to then...
What Navy and Air Force? Where's he getting them?
The United States.
No, but I'm saying they're deployed all over the place, and we don't have any anymore. Hey, we don't even have a National Guard anymore. They're all over getting shot at in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well,
You mean that's what his speech is? We're deploying military.
Humanitarian aid.
Humanitarian
which
aid.
will then develop into a third world war.
All right.
He
Don't
has
worry
just
about it.
signed our death warrant. We're going
Okay.
to get what the Germans got under Hitler and the Japanese got under their emperor. We are going to really suffer because this administration not only has antagonized Russia, it has antagonized a number of nations who, working together, can make it life very short for the most of us here.
I got to tell you who else this administration has antagonized. Me.
Well,
And be very afraid when you antagonize me. So here we were thinking maybe Bush would start a war before the end of his term, but we were thinking Iran, and that way you think we're going to do Georgia or the Russians.
I don't see how we can avoid it if he, because the whole point of sending this so-called humanitarian aid in there is to force the Russians to do something. Then that will give us the reason to then try. And since our forces have been stretched to the breaking point, the Russians have waited just at the right time to deal with us militarily.
All right.
And what I'm saying is, it doesn't look good for us at all.
All right, Ed, let's bring the bomb shelters back.
Yeah.
Duck and cover, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Ed. Hi. Hi. PJ in Greensburg. Hi. Oops. Here we go. I'm getting you. There you go.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Hey, actually, Napoleon wasn't very short for his time period.
Well, he wasn't? He was a...
No. I mean, he was below average, but he wasn't extremely short.
All right, okay, all right.
Because you know how it is with bygone era and shorter people.
Yeah, but he was still below average.
I mean, there's so many things. That's why I don't mind waiting on hold, but it's all the things that run through my head while I'm on hold.
I know.
Just touching on you saying about the mad people running the world, I've always said that it's not the smartest people, it's not the people who have the best intentions, it's the people with the greatest drive that end up running the show.
This is true.
And I mean, that goes for every aspect of life, every job there is. Those are the people, the crazy ones that are willing to run you off the highway while they're on their phone and multitasking, and they just don't want to stop. The Middle East is in Asia.
Really? Okay, all right. I was trying to read this. Matt gave me something, and I couldn't even make head nor tails of it.
Well, that's your previous caller who said that the dividing line does literally run through Turkey. You can drive over a bridge from Europe to Asia.
But who decided that? Who decided what that line is? Is it a mountain?
I think it was. I don't think it was someone just picking.
Wait.
Drawing up
it's the Urals.
Land masses.
No, it's the Ural Mountains. It says here the Urals are usually taken as the eastern limit of Europe, along with the Ural River and the Caspian Sea.
Well, and that's where the land masses hit, and that's why you have mountains there.
Because
of the two land masses running into each other.
Okay.
I had a bazillion things I wanted to tell you about. Hey, did you hear about all the gorillas they found? I thought of this earlier when you were talking about guerrilla warfare.
I saw those gorillas. I didn't even. But you know what? They need to be quiet about where they are.
Well, that's exactly what I thought. I mean, I'm really happy to hear it, but yeah, that immediately sent bells off in my head too. But hopefully there are a lot of agencies trying to work to protect them now that they know they're there and everything. So.
It pretty much doubled the known world population of gorillas.
It's a huge increase. I mean, it's just an enormous. It was thousands of them. So that was a good thing to hear. I don't know if anybody else knows about it.
Thousands of them, and God help them. And by the way, we're talking about gorillas, G-O-R, not G-U-E, because there's plenty of those around. Too many.
Not G-U-E as in pronounced gorilla?
Yeah, gorillas or gorillas, because we were saying, Anthony was saying, was it Anthony? No, it wasn't. It was,
Yeah, it was Anthony.
It was Anthony. He was saying about guerrilla warfare and how when you were a kid, at least if you were, as old as I am, you grew up listening to your parents, listening to, Walter Cronkite, and he was always talking about the gorillas in the jungle in Southeast Asia, and we were fighting them. I was scared out of my mind.
Well, fortunately, there aren't any jungles in America, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, well.
The gorillas.
Okay.
Hey, listen, one more thing. Can I say one more thing real quick?
Sure.
When you get laissez-faire capitalism, as so many of the right-wingers in this country want,
they love it.
You end up with Russia and China.
That's what you get.
And you end up getting your butt kicked at the game that you love and think is so great.
Well, the thing is, see, what you got to do is abandon democracy, and then you can play. You got an even playing field.
Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I hate to parrot Tom Hartman, but he's absolutely right. It's no longer they're not communist anymore over there. They're fascist. No. It's a fascist dictatorship. It's the combination of
corporate,
government and corporate.
That's business and government. So you got both Russia and China essentially as fascistic states now. That's true.
Exactly. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Keep up the work. Okay.
Yeah. Bye. And we've got people around here who think we should be too. So we think the democracies won, maybe the fascists won after all. Jeez. I'll tell you, the more you think, the more your head starts hurting. 412-333-1360. We got a little time here. Come on in. I got one caller who's going to wait, I hope. And other than that, I could use a few gentlemen callers. I could use some ladies, too. I'm liberal. I'm Lynn, Cullen. It's AM News Talk, 1360. By the way, I'm looking at news sites trying to see what Bush said, and I don't see anywhere that he was saying we're sending troops. I'm sorry, I don't see that. Wouldn't that be a lead? It's nowhere in there. I saw he's sending Condi Rice. She doesn't constitute troops. What? He sends... Oh, sure! Send the lady right into the middle of it. Yeah, he's sending Condi. Josh in Wilkinsburg, you there?
Hey, Lynn, how you doing?
I am okay. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. I called up to put in a little info on that Europe-Asia border.
Okay.
You already did the Ural Mountains. I was just going to suggest that. That's what I learned in geography class anyway.
Good for you.
But, and the gorilla thing. When I was a kid in the 80s on the news, you'd hear about this Central America fighting going on, and I thought they were trained gorillas fighting in the jungle.
Oh, see, and for you it was, it was a Central America. It was like Nicaragua and Guatemala gorillas.
Right. I remember Reagan being on TV a lot talking about the Sandinistas and the Contras and guerrilla fighters.
There can't have been a kid anywhere who didn't have that same image.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. But anyway, that's all I had to say.
Well, that is quite...
Work.
Thank you, Josh. Bye-bye. I appreciate you hanging on, even though your thunder was stolen with the Ural Mountains. Okay, another interesting thing that we haven't touched on, and I do want to, is that according to the New York Times, get this, weeks, and Mr. Matt, I want you to listen to this since you're blaming Georgia for everything on this. Weeks before any tanks, any bombs, anything happened, there's a guy sitting in Massachusetts, suburban Massachusetts, who is a security researcher. And he's sitting there on his computer, and he's watching what is described as an attack against the sovereign nation of Georgia in cyberspace. So weeks and weeks ago, other internet experts noted it too. Attacks against Georgia's internet infrastructure began as early as July 20th. So these were the Russians setting this up, trying to take down. And here, if you read the whole article in the New York Times, what's fascinating about it is they're saying, never will there be a war again in which this is not part and parcel of the attack. You take down their internet infrastructure first. Now, in some countries, that doesn't do a heck of a lot. And in Georgia, apparently it doesn't do a heck of a lot because they ain't all that connected. But this country, you can have our subways come to... What subways? Well, you have a few. Our subways come to a halt. Our utility companies go kaplooey. Our government, our very government, unable to communicate within itself. And they are saying that this, as far as all these tech IT experts know, this is the first time that there was a known cyber attack that was obviously meant to coincide with a shooting war. The first, but not the last. This is what we'll see from from now on. The Georgian government's, all its sites were down before the Russians moved in. Now, here's a thing that I don't understand, and I want some of you IT people to tell me what the heck this means, because it's sort of in this story, but then doesn't get referred to again, and it might show that I don't comprehend. Explain this to me, because this is also in this New York Times piece about the cyber attack happening before the gunfire. The command and control server that directed the attack on Georgia was based in the United States and had come online several weeks before it began the assault. Okay, that's right here, front page, New York Times. They don't refer to that again. What the heck does that mean? The rest of the article makes it sound like this is all coming from Russia. I mean, it is Russia taking down the internet infrastructure in Georgia. But right up here it says the command and control server that directed the attack, the cyber attack, was based in the United States and had come online several weeks before it began the assault. Somebody help me there. What the heck does that mean? You see, we live in a world we do not comprehend. Claire and Pitcairn, hello.
Hello there.
Hi.
My guess would be that a server is nothing but a fairly muscular computer that is going to direct activities.
But why would it be in the United States?
Because there's more trunk lines over here.
So, but it would be Russians over here doing it for the Russian government?
Not necessarily, because you could take and come out of a .ru, which you would think to be Russia, and come over just telephonically or electronically. You don't have to be anywhere near where the server is. You could control it from Russia.
Okay.
And have it, cause havoc over there in Georgia.
Okay.
Especially as I'm sure the telecommunication facilities in Georgia aren't real wonderful. I wonder if the president there would like to yank back the 2,000 troops he has in Iraq.
Oh, I think he already has. And, in fact, we're helping get them out.
Yeah, we're ferrying them into Georgia.
Yeah, we're helping. That is one way we're helping. We told them, sure, you can get your guys out of here and we'll help you.
Okay.
We're helping airlift his troops out.
But as to misunderstood military terms of childhood, my childhood goes to the 60s.
Uh-huh.
And we had at times the Viet Cong or other people were being described as irregular troops.
That's true.
And at the same time, we had everybody from Ted Mack to Lawrence Welk counseling you on regularity.
Uh-huh. So
wondering if the irregular troops
you thought the
needed some
troops were just
Imodium.
all constipated or something.
Yes. We're having trouble with our dailies here. We're having trouble with latrine duty.
Yes. Who are we fighting? Apparently a bunch of constipated gorillas.
Irregular gorillas. Feed them more bananas. Their potassium's low. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, gosh. Well, you think of all the confusion that we can look back and laugh at that was in our heads about when we were trying to comprehend the world. But, you wonder what confusions beset us now that we might never figure out.
Oh, I'm still trying to get over the cognitive dissonance of my lifetime to this point in that we were diving under school desks to get away from what the communists could do to us.
Right.
And now we're having the Olympics in a country where every one of the defense contractors that told us that has a plant. Westinghouse, General Electric, the whole bunch of them. And so the people that we feared then, they're the capitalist communists now?
They're the
All these
those are
labels.
all the good guys, I guess.
It's enough to make you irregular.
That's right. It's true.
It's amazing.
Hey, thanks.
You're welcome.
Good to talk to you. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, you guys. All right. I'm just checking my email. A lot of people saying, yeah, it's Asia. It's Asia. We were talking about what's Asia, where's... I'm a geography with a degree in geography, and I work for the Census Bureau, dang it. And the Middle East is, in all intents and purposes, Asia. Okay. So, I often thought, okay, so then I've been on how many continents? Because I've been in Israel, so that means I've been in Asia, I've been in Europe, I've been in South America, and I've been in North America. I got to work on Africa and Australia and Antarctica. Something tells me that last one is I'm not going to get around to, but we'll see. Okay, so that's it. So coming up tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing David Marinus, despite the fact that we don't have his book. But it is a book about the 1960 Olympics, and who knows? It's, you know what? It ain't war, as far as I know. And we will probably get into politics at some point because the folks from PCN, that's Pennsylvania Cable News Network, will be here, and I think they usually like us talking politics, so maybe we'll have to do that for them. Although I'm frankly not looking forward to it. Meanwhile, enjoy this beautiful day. Yet another. What bounty? What extraordinary bounty. Stay tuned for a little bit of news and Mr. Hartman. I'm Lynn Cullen. It's AM News Talk, 1360.